Paul Lee to come up here and show off some photographs that he was busy preparing while I read a little tribute to our dear Dr. Gregory. In presenting the next award, I'm faced with the very definition of a challenge. Here's what it is. How to make a short speech that does justice to someone who's receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. Even if Karl Gregory was still a very young man, it wouldn't be easy. His commitment to social progress began early and is as strong today as ever. Throughout, he's demonstrated a remarkable ability to go with, around, over, through, and against the establishment to bring about racial equality from South Africa to Southfield. No place was off limits for Karl. He went to boardrooms and boardwalks. Depending on when and where you were looking, you could find Karl in a jail cell or on the pages of a prestigious academic journal. He was a role model and teacher of students in the classroom of the university and in the improvised schoolrooms of the Northern High Freedom School. In 1966, Karl was the principal of Freedom during that historic struggle for quality education in Detroit. For that contribution alone, he's been immortalized as a character in play. By the way, longtime MCHR board member Frank Joyce counts Karl's assistant principal at the Northern High Freedom School as one of his proudest moments, too. What a record Karl compiled. If you don't believe it, ask the Detroit Political Police, also known as the Red Squad. Their version goes on for pages. But you could also ask the trustees of Oakland University, where he retired as a distinguished emeritus professor of business administration, or the many businesses he's advised. Karl has helped countless African Americans make their way through the shark tanks of banks and big corporations. Given that the economic system, if anything, has more segregated and hostile than the social system or the political system, that too is no small achievement. Karl has served in the leadership of virtually every civil rights and civil liberties organization in the United States. He's advised presidents and prime ministers again and again in so many ways. He has made sure that African Americans get counted. That is true both literally and figuratively. I mean it because Karl served for many years as advisor to the Census Bureau. So, most of all, we are pleased to honor Karl Gregory tonight as one of our own, from his early work with the Bishop Coleman McGee to his years of service as a member of the MCHR board and advisory board. Karl Gregory exemplifies what a lifetime of commitment to human rights is all about. We thank him, we appreciate him, we love him, and we applaud him. We wish him many more years of inspiring us all.
Thank you very much. I'm really overwhelmed by this reception and this award. It's particularly meaningful to me because of my relationship to Bishop Coleman McGee, whose name this award is given. Coleman McGee had me as an advisor to his corporate social responsibility efforts, through which I traveled to with a group of ecumenical ministers representing several different denominations to Cuba to investigate the impact of American corporations, American metal climax to be specific, in processing ore from a high mountain in Puerto Rico using sulfur in a process that created sulfuric acid, which would roll down the mountainside, defoliate the agricultural products and the greenery, go into the sea, kill the small fish, and the medium-sized fish eat the small fish, so that hurt them. And then the big fish eat the medium-sized fish. So the whole ecological damage there was very immense. Well, through the organization Bishop Coleman set up, we went down there, we investigated that, we held hearings, and this was all over the press in Puerto Rico, and the people didn't know the involvement of this American corporation, so that when they knew, they took action and led to corrections. A second corporate social responsibility effort that the McGee organized group involved in was in trying to make known to Americans the evils of apartheid. We went to a General Motors annual meeting, and I think it was George Roach was the chairman of the board, and we put forth a proposal which was voted on for America, for GM to disinvest in South Africa. And the chairman said that we were a bunch of do-gooders, that they were really one of the best things that happened to South Africa because they were hiring a lot of blacks. So we, since he said we were do-gooders, we'd never been to South Africa, we sent a group there and we investigated conditions. I wish I had more time. I'll tell you what we saw. It was really disgraceful. Separate wage tiers were what someone called Bantus, a derogatory term for natives, black South Africans. Some of whom were college graduates, were making much less than whites, who often were less educated. Well, we did a lot of investigation. We wrote a major report that Congressman Charles Diggs had put into the congressional records. It's a historic fact now. And this effort and several other efforts by other organizations led to the extreme embarrassment of the South African government. And it was one of many efforts that led to the power structure in apartheid South Africa having to let loose, having to free Nelson Mandela. Some of you may remember that when Nelson Mandela came here, one of the first stops he made was to Detroit. And he spoke at Titan Stadium. And an amazing speech. You know, the first 3 minutes he was effusive in thanking Detroiters for all of the support that they gave. And I was thinking, my Lord, I want to hear about what he's doing in South Africa. I don't want to hear all these thank yous. Did this guy change, you know? And then he got into one of the most powerful transitions in the speech I've ever heard. You know, he said, we in South Africa like Motown. You know, we hear mother, that to me you're crying, that to me you're dying. And then he got into his speech of what was going on in South Africa and how apartheid was going to change substantially and so on. But I just say that to say that little efforts in community organization, taking on the challenges in your community, can lead to substantial impact because little things build and other people get courage to organize and this spreads. And when you have a large organized effort that goes on nationally particularly, much change can take place. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and supporting the MCHR, National Coalition for Human Rights. It's a really great organization, does great things, like to thank the table sponsors and so on. And on behalf of a lot of people who have impacted me, I'd like to accept this award. My professors, my family, my close friends, and numerous others on whose shoulders I have moved throughout my life. And I'd really like to thank the people who have written books from whom I've taken ideas to form my own values and philosophies. Well, thank you very much.
I'll try to make my remarks brief. My name is Paul Lee. I'm a Highland Park historian. I'm privileged to be one of the protégés of Dr. Gregory, and it's his protégé that gives me the right to embarrass him. Those of you who know him to be handsome, suave, urbane, comfortable in boardrooms, whose name graces any number of blue ribbon committees. What you may not know is that his father Bertram was from the Caribbean, and like many people from that region of the world, he was a follower of Marcus Garvey. For those of you who need a little brushing up on your history, in the early 1920s, Marcus Garvey was the leader of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. At its height in 1926, it reported to have 1,200 branches, chapters, and divisions in over 40 countries on 4 continents, with a membership estimated in the millions. It taught black pride, self-determination, and nationhood for black people. That's who his father was. So perhaps it was natural that in 1966, when the students at Northern High School rose up, they had been animated by the call for black power that our friend Gregory, who was then the coordinator of the Detroit Area Friends of Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, helped raise in the city. They were drawn to Dr. Gregory. This is a photo that I got blown up earlier today. This is Dr. Gregory. Yeah. He was teaching at Wayne State University. This for you. It is also not surprising, now that you know his militant pedigree, that Dr. Gregory was drawn to the foremost spokesman or spokesperson for African Americans in the city at that time, Jaramogi Abebe Agyeman. For those of you whose hair is in gray like mine, remembers the Reverend Albert Cleage Jr. After the Detroit Rebellion, the white power structure recognized that the black leaders that they had relied upon to keep the black community in line not only didn't speak for the black community, they didn't speak to them. They had no influence with them. So they were compelled to be drawn to Albert Cleage. What was then called the New Detroit Committee was formed, and they sent a delegation, they deputized somebody rather, to meet with Reverend Cleage. And in August of 1967, Henry Ford Jr. walked into Reverend Albert Cleage's church at 12 and Bogart. What would that mean? Bill showing his age, Reverend Cleage, and the man doing the talking, Mr. Urbane. As a matter of fact, Reverend Cleage decided to use a strategy to find out what Hank Ford wanted, so he let Reverend Cleage do he let Dr. Gregory do most of the talking while he studied Hank Ford. Dr. Gregory ended up becoming an economic advisor for Reverend Cleage, but he also started doing something, this is another side that you don't know. He also was not only helping to make history, but he was helping to capture history. For example, in August of 1967, 2 months after the rebellion, there was a meeting on the 13th floor, what was then called the City Council Building, City Council Building. And the so-called militant elements of the black community got together and formed an organization called the Citywide Citizens Action Committee. And that was the first time the call for what Reverend Cleage, as Reverend Cleage put it, for the transfer of power to be made. Dr. Gregory was there with 8mm camera, filming all of this. Now, Dr. Gregory isn't aware that I have these. These are 2 photos that were taken by the then premier black freelance photographer in the city, J. Edward Bailey III. This is Reverend Cleage speaking at a night rally in the Shrine of Black Madonna. And if you look in the corner of each of these photographs, there's Mr. Urbane photographing Reverend Cleage. I would have thought you guys to teach us numbers. And in case my embarrassment causes him to try to forget me, there's a photo of 2 of us. He won't be able to. I almost didn't make it up here because this morning, I got the news that General Gregory Jr. made the transition. That news was tough enough. And then my friend Abiona Ezekwe told me that one of my mentors from Harvard University, Obi Egbuna, died a few weeks ago. For those of you who don't know, he was a great Pan-Africanist from Nigeria. When Britain had its Black Power movement in the 1960s, Egbuna was the head of the Universal Colored People's Association, the UPCA. 2 weeks ago, another dear friend of mine, Paul Lee.one Jr., the son of the man that Gilmore called the tallest tree in our forest, made his transition. I'm an historian, but I'm an historian that doesn't spend most of his time in historical societies, libraries, and archives. Instead, I've been privileged to sit at the feet of those who made the history, or observed it firsthand like Dr. Gregory. Too often, we wait till people have made their transition before we express our appreciation. And I'm very thankful that you chose this occasion to give Dr. Gregory his laurels.
Yes,
He's still here to receive them. Thank you.
Well deserved. Congratulations. Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing that with us. It was very fun, and I think that it was very heartfelt as well.